Hello, my name is Parjit Kaur, and this is my climate story. My story begins in India, where I grew up, and continues in the United States, where I've lived for the last 30 years. I want to share my climate story because I'm very concerned about the global climate crisis we are currently experiencing in all its forms. And I strongly believe that we need to start having meaningful conversations on this topic, even though it brings up fears about our world, guilt about our past actions, and a very inconvenient realization that we need to change how we live. My concern for the environment comes from my love for nature. I was very fortunate that I grew up in the foothills of Himalayas in India and had early encounters with untempered nature. Our backyard was literally formed by the Shivalik range of the Himalayas, and growing up, our afternoons were spent exploring the natural springs, brooks, and flora and fauna of those mountains. To this day, the dark, dense green of those mountains remains permanently etched in my memory. And I'm sure that my sensibility of the beauty and mystery of nature was formed in those early years. From a young age, I was fascinated with living things, and I wanted to explore the discipline of biology. So after receiving a master's degree and a PhD in microbiology from India, I spent a valuable year at the University of Göttingen in Germany and 4 years at Wayne State University in Michigan, USA, to carry out postdoctoral research work. While I lived in Germany, I used to visit an English language bookstore on a regular basis. And that's where I ran across the writings of Emerson and Thoreau, two American naturalists who greatly influenced my thought processes about the sanctity of nature and its value in keeping humans sane. After completing my postdoctoral work in Germany and in Michigan, I moved to Atlanta in 1993 to serve as a professor of biology at Georgia State University, where I taught courses and ran a research lab for 25 years to study molecular basis of drug resistance in bacteria. The bacteria and all other microorganisms, they are the tiniest forms of life on our planet, and we cannot see them with our naked eyes. But they play an incredibly important role in our bodies and in our environment. Indeed, they hold our planet together by their invisible activities in the soil, oceans, and air. My research and teaching activities were therefore always directly or indirectly linked with the environment. However, I have to admit that I was not actively engaged in talking about climate issues until recently. And this is because I sensed a reluctance among my colleagues, friends, and society as a whole to address these issues. When I first moved to Atlanta in 1993, I immediately fell in love with the natural landscape of the city. Coming from Detroit in particular, I couldn't help but notice large tracts of majestic tall trees, sweet gums, tulip poplars, Georgia pines, and magnolias growing in and all around the city of Atlanta naturally. Standing in the presence of a cluster of these trees was an experience no less than sacred. Over the years, however, I started seeing how human activities were destroying nature in the name of development. Unrestrained growth of townhomes, shops, office buildings, and hospitals, as well as indiscriminate cutting of trees, have over the years resulted not only in horrendous traffic jams and smog, but also a dwindling tree cover contributes greatly to the ever more blistering summer temperatures, barely perceptible winters, and an allergy season that continues throughout the year. These are all symptoms of accelerating environmental degradation, a simmering climate crisis, and a reduced quality of life in the city of Atlanta. In fact, a 70-plus acre mega medical industrial complex of concrete, steel, and glass is currently being built in and all around my neighborhood in Atlanta. This will be accompanied by a 25-acre of additional development of hotels, townhomes, and shops, all catering to this medical complex. My heart revolts against the idea that I have replaced the dense forests of the Shivalik range of my childhood with the crawl of a concrete jungle of my current life. And the only people who benefit are the developers. But my situation is not unique, and the story of my neighborhood is representative of the state of the United States and the entire planet. Moreover, what happens in one part of the world affects every other place. Our local and federal governments everywhere are allowing harmful policies to continue unabated. There is no concern for greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in constantly intensifying heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and floods, and the worsening quality of air that we all breathe. Being a biologist, I have always understood the concept of ecosystems and that humans live inside the ecosystems, not outside of them. Although the way we live inside the prefabricated structures and how we buy prepackaged food in supermarkets, it reinforces the idea that we are apart or separate from natural ecosystems. But we are part of nature, and in nature, everything is interconnected. We need to understand that since we are at the top of the food chain, if we destroy nature, we destroy ourselves. So I'm going to close the story by asking the question, what can we do while we still have a chance to stop the widespread destruction of our planet? How can we protect the diversity of life on the only planet we know where it exists from existential threats of climate change caused by reckless human activities? First of all, we must start a conversation on climate change, stop denying climate crisis, and take responsibility for our actions. Second, we need to change how we live, and every citizen, young and old, needs to get involved in the movement to reduce or stop use of fossil fuels, support a just transition to clean energy and green jobs, stop further loss of tree canopy, and restore the lost habitats on which we all depend. Thank you.